Terry, what's going on? It's very good to see you today.
Oh, it's great to be back.
It feels like forever.
Good to see you. Good to see all our friends.
I know I'm about to go share this.
I know it's been a couple of weeks, and so it's like, yeah, changed. We're in a different world than we were 2 weeks ago. Well, every day is a different world, but you know what I mean. It's like kind of interesting.
It sure is.
And how are you? How are you? You're in a different space right now.
Definitely, I'm in a different space and a different place. I can barely make it here today because I was writing and I'm writing and I'm writing and I'm writing and I can't stop writing and writing. It's like, so it's like, I don't know. I'm having to like fit my life into my creativity instead of my creativity into my life. That's how I feel like I'm in that space now. I felt like I knew something like that was coming after talking to Chris Pridham, and dealing with some changes I was going through and classes I was taking with Magical Michelle, and then also things with Patricia White, doing the feng shui. Yeah. It's funny because you spend the time doing work on your life because you say you want these results, and then then it's like when your mind meets the actualization of the physical representation of what you're working on, you can't imagine the difference in how it feels. Yeah, it's like you understand the feeling of wanting, but not necessarily the feeling of embodiment or the having. And so, yeah, it is changing.
What does that look like?
What does it look like? It looks like instead of being so shocked and surprised all the time when something really works out and something happens, to own it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to explain it other than accepting it and stop spending so much time in awe, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And just be like, of course, accept it, own it. And now what's next? What's behind it? It's not really a feeling of like never being satisfied. And I think it offers you an opportunity too to be present with it at the time. I think like as everything is happening to me, the level of awareness and presence of mind to absorb it and say, I remember when I asked for this, or I can see why that's working this way, or now that this is happening, how do you feel? And just being present. How do I feel right now? Just thinking more about how do I feel right now, and dealing with things as they are right now, rather than, oh, if only this would happen or that will happen. Now it's more like, okay, don't worry about what's going, that thing that's going to happen that you want, because you can see the road actually matches. Like you can see the yellow brick road going down to the place. So you're like, okay, when it's coming, let's keep doing this because that is right around the corner. So let's just I hope that makes sense to people.
No, well, it makes sense to me. And I'm sure that other people will say, yeah, I get that. I get that, because I think we have expectations. They're things don't always, they work out, but not what we always think the way they will. It reminds me of that movie Under the Tuscan Sun.
Right. It doesn't look how you think it looks. You're like, now you're like, but you can put the piece together to be like, this is what it looks like. It's so funny that you said that.
This is what it looks like. It's just like, we have this preconceived notion, but when it actually happens, it's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I had anticipated. This is what I had worked towards. It doesn't quite show up the way, like the same image that we have, but it's exactly the same kind of energy that we're looking for, right? So
It
I think
is. And
sometimes we, what's that?
you know,
Hello, Phoenix.
my first visit down here or up here, I keep saying down, but up here was shocking. And I missed one of my theta healing classes with the young ladies that are in the class with me and Magical Michelle. And we go through the practicals of the theta healing, but we're also going through the healing at the same time. So many of the times we're talking about our childhood trauma, shock and trauma, ancestral things, and we're asking for the healings. And then you're supposed to be, at this point where you believe it. And so you act as if you've received it. You say, thank you. So I was able to report back to the group, this is actually working, you guys. So now here's the evidence that what we're working on is actually manifesting. So it was, even though I was missing class, it was like, I'm writing back to the Church of the Philippi. It just reminds me of the things, in the Bible where he would write back and he'd be like, be encouraged, brothers and sisters. And not that this is like a religious, but it just reminds me of those letters because he would, like Paul would write back and say, guess what? Be encouraged because here is truth. Manifestation of the truth that the power of the creator is real. And he'd write back to the different people and say, hey, be encouraged, And so I wrote my little letter to the group and said, be encouraged that if you have any doubt, because, when there's an empty space, and any empty space, the little doubts can creep in, be encouraged to keep going forward in what we are doing, because it really is healing the planet. And it's funny how you ask me these questions, and it really does lead into the topic of what we're going to talk about today. It's like,
yes, but I'm just going to, I just want to add something. Is like, we talk about manifesting, but the problem that we have is that we keep saying, I want this, or this is what I'm going to manifest. And we keep repeating and repeating and repeating. So when it goes out to the universe is saying, well, what version do you want? Do you want the version from May the 6th, or do you want the version from April 30th? Which version do you want? Because as we start moving through the galaxy, through universe, there's a different quantum stamp on each time. So every time we try and manifest the same thing over and over again, it's slightly different. So we just have to manifest what it is what our desire is, and let it go and act as if it's already happened. And you can say things like, I remember when I was struggling with, getting the dishes done, meanwhile, you've got a past, then we are creating that aspect of that we're wanting to manifest by saying that what we were challenged with is in the past. I remember when I was having that struggle or that problem, or whatever, and then manifesting from the fact that, okay, this is what I want, and then let it go. Just let it go instead of trying to hold on to what it is that we want. And so I think there's a lot that we can, I think as we evolve, we're starting to see more and more like, oh, okay, well, maybe we need to let go of some of the stuff.
Here it is, hey, too, Susan. Because it's like what you're saying. And if you had this tennis ball and you lobbed it, now you can go sit in the audience and you're watching yourself lob it. You're watching the ball go across. And then you're actually the one who's going to be like, wow, what a great serve on the other side. Wham. So you don't have to keep doing it. Like you say, you don't have to keep asking for it. Move on to the next. But then you're going to be doing this work to bridge the gap
Yeah,
to
exactly.
go to the other side.
Yeah, this, this is how we're becoming conscious manifestors. This is how we're becoming, conscious of what we are creating, a conscious creators, right? It's like, okay, this is what I put out. Now next.
Right.
Instead of getting caught in that world, in that circle, right? And it's like, I just keep going in circles.
Right.
That's because we keep
You have
trying
three
to
jobs.
manifest something that's always changing, right?
So you have three jobs. And so instead of sitting there repeating, I wish over and over as if you don't have it, the first job is to go ahead and ask for it. And that's the beginning of the creation. Second, when you're in the audience, you have to be the witness. So you visualize and you witness it as because in theta we do that. We witness. So we wait and we witness. What does it look like? What does it
Mm-hmm.
feel like? And then third, you have to be the receiver. You have to go ahead and accept it. So you have three jobs. You don't have time to whine about it. So I really don't know what to say, Terry, because I think well the title of this, what is the title today, Terry? What did we say the thing? It's why doesn't
I
Johnny
know you wrote it. Yeah, why doesn't Johnny have to heal?
and because what my theory on this was that we can get caught up in spiritual rubbernecking because we're like, well, I did all the work. Hey, Lisa, have fun. Is it next week at the
Hi,
conference or is
Lisa.
it 2 weeks? 1 week. It's next week, I think. So we do some spiritual rubbernecking and we're like, oh, I did the work, right? And so a really hard thing for us to do is to actually go home or be around friends and family. And we kind of try to dump on them the expectation that they should do this healing work when that's really not necessarily what they're here for. And I was reading, I was feeling like when I was in classes, sometimes I can accept certain people as they are, but I was noticing some people are struggling with that, understanding that you actually did the healing work so other people don't have to. And a part of it would be understanding human nature. So I've been watching or listening to Robert Greene and the laws of human nature. And he had this really cool story in there about a man named Anton, and he's like from Russia. He had a really hard life, and his father beat him all the time because he had this thing. His father would tell him, children are supposed to literally be beaten because this is how we make sure that we keep our families humble and da 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 da. And so the man presented as a religious man who was pious and who owned a store and so respectable, but he really was like just a broken down drunk who really just beat his kids and he had an ill temper. And so the other kids were just suffering as soon as they could. They left the home. Anton, he suffered, but then he got a little devilish streak in him where he would do some things that to terrorize other people. But in his experience, he became what you could call detached, where he could see from the outside different people's moods, perspectives, why they do certain things, and his family all moved away, and things got even worse for him. Like his family all moved away because someone swindled them out of their home, and he could only stay in this little corner of his own home, but it forced him to be able to go out into the world and see things for himself. He studied, became a doctor, and became a writer. And then he returned, to another city where his family was and still saw them being reactive to what it was, whatever the father's moods and attitudes were, everybody was just reacting. And he basically told them, you have no excuse for not succeeding in life because no matter what he did, you still have control of your own destiny. And so he actually changed his family in a way, those that could, even though this isn't about you trying to change your family, but he showed them a different perspective from the level of detachment. And so what I would notice in class would be people wanting to heal from the hurt of their childhood trauma, but still saying, justifying this one small part of anger because, but they did this to me. And I started to look at, if you start to look at people who were your parents and they're born in 1950, 40, 30, 20, people are living through the depression. People are coming from eras where they actually faced starvation and had all these problems. It kind of changed your perspective on how you see your parents. Like if you knew that your mother was sexually assaulted or abused or starved or locked in a room, if you were to put yourself in her shoes, you would kind of understand why she might have been not the mom that you wanted. You would begin to see her different when you start to understand compassionately from her point of view, and then your grandmother's point of view, and even your grandfather. Because when a lot of people talk about patriarchy, I don't think they really understand like kind of the shock and trauma that men live through with war, also starvation, also molestation, also. And so when you have a father or a grandfather, you're looking at a mean, strong looking exterior, but that's a person that's been actually very much hurt and damaged. So it's like your father and grandfather really is not your enemy, right? They're not, because they are also suffering shock and trauma. Yeah. And so what people would do now, younger people would say, they're pointing at a person as if they're an authority or that they actually control the world, when they're also they're just like you. They have no control over the world, and they don't have enough awareness or have control over themselves. But here you are, the person going through your healing journey. As you go home, you don't necessarily need them to heal. You went through what you went through to help heal your bloodline.
Yep.
Literally, they don't have to. This is why a part of your suffering.
Just like Lisa said, people are comfortable. Yeah. And like Lisa was just saying, that people are comfortable in the stories they adopt. And that's true. And the stories they adopt don't necessarily, it's their interpretation of events. And it's like, we can see, you and I can be in the same place, and we will have a different version of what happened. And then we repeat it and we repeat it. And so our story becomes what we get to attach to. But meanwhile, it may have played out differently. And I can look at it where I used to work in the court system, and sometimes the reporter would be reporting on something, and it's like, darn, I was in that court. I did the transcript of it. How is he in the same court that I was in? Because we interpret things differently through our perception, right?
And our perception is going to favor us. My perception is going to cover every ouch, every owie, every discomfort that affected me. It usually isn't going to tell me about the sun that was hitting you on the back of your neck, the mosquito that bit you on your shoulder, the fact that you just stepped on the thumbtack, so all the things that you're suffering are not going to register to me. All the factors before dad came home, before mom came home, what they just heard on the telephone, gosh, the fact that you live inside a house and you just got through eating, but you really don't know that you guys really don't have any more food, and that this person, so we don't register all these things. And even in that Robert Greene book, I swear this is a great book to read about human nature, to help you understand your own nature, even how you see your own suffering. Of course, your suffering is going to be this big. And it's so funny. I had a conversation with my mom. She said, I just didn't know that you were the way that you are. She said, you're just so different than me, and I wanted you to be more like me. And, you were sensitive, which she doesn't realize, like, you're sensitive, right? So I said, yeah, I have feelings. I have all the feelings in the world is what this is my new saying. Like, I have all the feelings in the world. Okay. Because when it comes to me, that's all I know is how I feel. Or I won't say that's all I know. The biggest thing that I know, the biggest thing that I feel is my own feelings. And then you come next. But she doesn't realize her levels of sensitivity, that she has all the feelings in the world too. Like, yeah, you're sensitive to you. When you're mad at people, you want me to be mad at people. You want everyone to be mad when you're mad. You want everyone to be happy when you're happy. And so we have like this really limited perspective sometimes, until we get to this point of understanding human nature where we can detach and kind of look at the person. Gosh, if we can just put a beat and just try to do a 360 to look at another human being and say, now I understand. But we are more equipped emotionally for change. Like, we're more flexible. And some people, they don't have that flexibility. They're very fragile in some ways and very rigid in some ways, some people. And so here we are with our spiritual rubbernecking. Why is this person? And guess what? They don't have to. They don't have to. They may never. Some people are not here to change. How would you have your experience and go through your levels of change and your levels of learning if they were already perfect? If everything was perfect, if you were never sick, you wouldn't appreciate healthiness, right? If some things didn't smell bad, then nothing would actually smell good, because it just smelled the same. And so there's this variation in life. But I'll let you talk, Terry, because I could talk forever.
Well, no, but that's true. We do have, because if everything, like you said, if everything was perfect, then the entropy sets in, and then we just decay. And it's the changes, it's the challenges we have that make us grow, that keep us going. And all we have to do is look at people when they start slowing down for comfort's sake, right? Oh, they just want to be comfortable. Well, what happens when they're comfortable? Everything starts to break down. It's through our constant changing and moving through the energies that we grow and we evolve. So are we here to be comfortable, or are we here to evolve? And there's no judgment, but some people don't want to change. They're kind of like, they're in this place where, oh, I can't do it, or whatever. That's fine. We can't judge it. Like you said, they don't have to heal if they don't want to. It's up to them, and we can't force it on anyone or whatever. That's their journey. And so we just can observe it and just detach ourselves from the outcome, from their outcome. It's like that old saying, it's none of my business what you think of me.
Yeah. And is it really love if the person gives you everything you want? Is that love?
Yeah.
If you have to have everything the way that you desire it, are you really loving someone? And does your Zen go past your living room?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you, Terry?
Yeah, it does. And we see that with,
you don't love your kids for doing you don't love your kids for doing exactly what you want. You wish the best for them and you want some things, but then you like let go of your expectations of them and you love them anyway. That's what you're doing. And then so some of that, you have to give that grace to your kids and to your parents and to the weirdo at the gas station who's just, good God, he's a moron.
Yeah.
And the Zen that you have, it has to be.
And when they fall on their face, you let them get up, and but you don't have to lift them up.
Yeah.
You say, you can do it. Get up, pull yourself up. And if they say, give me a hand, then you can give them a hand, but you got to let them. You
Yeah.
got to let them strive, because if everything is always given back, or they're always helped, then they're not really evolving, and we become enablers, right? And so uh, it's not going to um, the evolution is going to just take a lot take longer until we realize that.
Yeah. It's interesting because my family member is a huge source of pain for me. But honestly, in my writing now, I've been, and it's not like things I don't know about her or others, and it's something I keep trying to actually pass on to my sister as well. Like, here's a 360 of this person's life. What can you
Yeah.
expect from them when all of these things have happened? But to hear her speak and say, I am not the smartest person, and I am weak, and I am troubled, and I am depressed. And I like literally on this level of awareness, but still my expectation still isn't for her to change, but I'm blown away by the phenomenal growth of the awareness to be able to speak it. And so, it's so funny
Well,
because I
and
hope and
that's the
hope.
part them to take. Once they become aware of it, yeah. Once there's
So I
awareness,
can have
then
hope.
they can't go back to the way it was. Yeah.
So I can have hope, but I do not have the expectation. And the expectation is me trying to
Yeah.
be the spiritual police to say that she should and shouldn't and da 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 da. I'm enjoying the
Yeah.
revelation, but it also, and these lengthy conversations we're having, I'm getting to write down, and it actually was helping me even more to understand. Good God, it must have been difficult to be you, even though
Mm-hmm.
she set up some rigid structures behind her. I can't say that I've been through the trauma that she has, and I have, my own trauma,
Right.
and I don't use it to justify negative behavior. And we literally had that discussion, but I can understand it if you do. I can understand it
Mm-hmm.
if you do. I can hope that one day you might resolve or be better. But then now I have the hope that I am literally hoping that my transformation, my change, my acceptance, my growth, I'm literally doing it with the hope that my whole, that it goes up through these generations to heal and resolve the trauma and the karma that they have. Like, I'm literally trying to run to the finish line myself, and even writing about it and sharing about it so that this ripples through for us all. And so here we are on the planet. We're not just even doing it, and if you really did go through bloodlines, your bloodlines spread out so far, it magnifies so far that you're literally affecting your neighbors and your friends, and probably don't even know it. Like, people that are rooted to the same bloodlines of you, that this is us changing the world as we weave through these layers of healing for ourselves, that we're literally doing it for the planet. But I don't have to expect the guy
Exactly.
at the grocery store to understand what I'm doing or to receive it, but I'm doing it in the hope that this is how we elevate. And so sometimes I think people get really discouraged when they don't see these responses around them, but do it for the job that it is. It's the job that it is, right? It's the job that it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. and we just let it. We do it, and then it has, like you said, it has that ripple effect, and it's like it's like there's a pattern, a crocheted pattern, right? And as soon as you start working on yourself and start um, taking that thread and winding it up into a ball, the pattern starts to unravel, and pretty soon it's that's been woven through generations. And as soon as you recognize it and you start to do that, it's going to open up. It's going to free people from a different perspective that they will,
and you'll possibly see it in the future generations, because as the weird, crazy auntie or the curious uncle or cousin, where you're not really realizing that a 7-year-old somewhere is watching you, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old is like, they got their own perspective of the world, and their parents and their grandparents and their cousins, and you're that one person in their family, and they're like, everybody says they're crazy, but they're happy. Everyone says they're weird, different, but I like them. And so in the future, that person's going to be able to walk through a door that you created. Even though you're not sitting there with expectations and watching, you're opening doors for people that you have no idea. And this, sometimes we struggle with. We want immediate payment, and the law of compensation. You are going to be compensated and rewarded, and you will see, possibly, you may not see where the rewards are coming from, because they're not going to be doing this for your mother and your mother's going to give it to you. You're doing it for your mother and your brother's daughter or son is going to be the blessing, or the neighbor that's been watching you take care of your family, the person at the nursing home, the person at the hospital. You're got such a big picture of people you're affecting that you have no idea, but you're still looking at your mom like, God darn it, it's like, let it go.
Well, we get it, but meanwhile, everybody else is like getting it. Yeah,
they get it.
Yeah, and taking it just another step is sometimes we're waiting to get that response for them. When we get it from someone else, a lot of times we don't
recognize it or receive it. Yeah, we don't recognize it or receive it because it didn't come from where
we don't know how to receive it.
Yeah. Be the receiver. Hit the ball.
So we have to
hit the ball.
We have to let go of the expectations.
Hit the ball and let it watch it go across the fence. Go receive it on the other side, you guys. Now let's see how these cards go today. Wow, ancient grandmother, cosmic enchantress, star.
So,
you want to tell us about the oracle?
So this is a new deck that I picked up. I was in Sedona last week, and this one just popped out. It popped out for me, so I'm just loving it. It's called the Star Temple Oracle by Susie Cherub. And it's a lot with the Pleiadian sisters. And so I've just been really quite fascinated with it. It's a beautiful deck. And I've just found it very insightful these days. So I decided to pull some cards from there today and see how they line up with what we were talking about. Because we don't do this. I do my thing and Erica does her thing. And then we come together and see how they, and they always seem to line up in some way together, right? So the first one is from Maya, and it's the ancient grandmother who's the teacher. I am the teacher that leads with self-knowledge. And so I think, like we were talking about, it's like we do, we're the teacher to ourselves. We do the work. And then we contemplate what's going on, and we don't have to worry about whether Johnny heals or not. We heal ourselves, so we are our own ancestor. And so, like you said about playing that tennis ball, we're the observer of it as well. And I think that's where that teacher comes in, where the grandmother, where that ancient knowledge, we're connecting with that source of our greater knowing. And it's sometimes this is how we move outside of the reality, because reality has a box that we have to believe this and this and this. But once we start to move outside of that reality, then we start um, being aware of the greater teachings, the cosmic teachings. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you want to make a comment, or should I just keep going on, Erica? I'm not hearing you.
I love that you are your own ancestor. You're doing this, you're reaching forward and backwards all at once, and you are going to embody, encapsulate what is needed. You have it inside you because it's in your DNA. So the pain that you feel and the trauma that you feel is not just your own. This is generations of heaviness, but we have to shine a light on it, recognize it, observe it, and process it so that it was not a waste. Do not allow it to be wasted.
So I think the other thing to recognize is that once we do that, healing is let it go. If people want to hang on to a trauma or hang on, that's their prerogative. But once we heal, there's no longer that magnetic pull to it, and they will eventually recognize, that it's not. It doesn't hold water anymore, so to speak.
There's a little bit of
Okay, so the
freezing.
second one is from Alcyon, and it's number 7, the Cosmic Enchantress, and it's wishcraft. I attract a steady flow of abundance. So I think, what we were talking about earlier about that whole idea of manifesting is like, put it out there and then let it go, and just wait to see what, that attraction, what comes to you, because if we keep changing it all the time, then the universe is going to say, well, what is it you want? So I think letting go of it and letting go of the outcome. We have a wish, we know what we're wanting, we know what we want to bring forward into our life. So state it and let it go, and act as if where you are now is in your past. I remember when I was wishing for this, and here it is. It's in front of me now. So I think that's how we attract that steady flow of abundance, is by releasing it and not trying to overcomplicate it for ourselves, or over, and I think affirmations are good, but because I use them all the time. But I think there's a certain level that we have to release it and let go and let God. That's what they say. Like, don't always try and manipulate what it is you want, because it may be better than what you think it's going to be, the results. And then the last one is also from Alcyon, and it's the Moonstone Star, and it's passion. I am entering a portal of euphoric love. And the way that I'm seeing this card with the other ones, it's about self-love and not looking for that confirmation from someone else. It's coming from within you, within your connection to your higher self, and that and having that compassion and unconditional love for ourselves. Then we start to radiate it, and then we become a magical attractor. So that's
amazing, because it's gosh, if you just said these 3 things to yourself: I am the teacher that leads with self-knowledge. I attract a steady flow of abundance. I am entering a portal of euphoric love.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Yeah. Like, those 3 affirmations take you far.
They're very powerful when we're trying to do this healing work, right?
It is. It is. Oh man. With today's discussion, I do believe that if you can get to this point, Let me tell you. So I was thinking, man, so I healed my childhood trauma. Why did I come back? And so I was like, there has to be some new lesson that comes from this besides just I forgive and I am healed. And the only thing I could think was, now am I healing my adult trauma? So what is my adult trauma? Can I let go of my feelings of inadequacy, my feelings of shyness, or lack of self-worth, and get to the part where I am the receiver? I have to be the giver of my own love, and I have to also be the receiver of my own love. But I just
Exactly.
can but think that this is some type of full circle thing, because I think we learn detached, but we think we're throwing our families into the garbage and never speak to them again. And it just really depends on how safe it is for you,
Yeah.
right? But if it is safe, you might be able to connect on a level and to go back and observe, and you're gonna actually be able to fill in the blank now with, instead of just forgiving, that you can now fill in the
Yeah.
blank with compassion and understanding. Because I
Compassion.
think a lot of things for us when it comes to the healing process and the love, like we have to, some of us, we have to have a what do you call it, an intellectual putting together of everything
Yeah.
that's happening intellectually, so that we can say, ah, I understand, and be healed. Some people,
Yeah.
when they play the radio, they need to know how the radio works. Some people, when they play the radio, because when it comes to certain types of energetic stuff, some things I can accept it. It just is. Some things
Yeah.
I have to understand the inner workings. And so we'll swap back and forth. So I don't know. And
Yeah.
and my answer for me is not necessarily the answer for you, but this is just
Yeah.
an open discussion of it, what I observed. So for someone,
Yeah.
it's
And it's like I can drive a car without knowing how the car necessarily works, as long as I know how to turn it on and put gas in and just the basic knowledge. But you know what? If I want to bake a cake, I want to know exactly what ingredients it is to bake a cake. But somebody who's working on a car may not need to know the ingredients that go into a cake. They'll just eat
yeah,
it and enjoy it. So we
it really.
have, we have different things that we relate to, and so
Yeah.
it's all good.
So in some circumstances, that healing is so quick and easy and but if you're hitting a point where there's some things that are still nagging you, and you're like, I already worked on this, or you want to take it to a deeper level, I think this whole discussion of what we're talking about, that Robert Greene book about the laws of human nature, will help you. And another movie that really discusses this is Vantage Point too, because when it comes to your perspective and someone else's perspective, it was the same incidents. I meant to mention that earlier. That was a really good movie, Vantage Point, because it showed you each person
Hmm.
fills in the blank of all the other things that were happening during this
Yeah.
assassination attempt. It's really cool. I loved it. So, but if you're really approaching that point where you're like, why am I still working on my mother, the feelings? Why can't there's still some little things in there? Why is it, you know, cousin JoJo still bothers me, or my ex-husband? That was another one that hit me on my way home when I was driving.
Hmm.
I said, I could not believe it was something he said a few months ago, and it just hit me while I was driving. I was like, no, he didn't say that. Because I didn't get upset at first, but I was like, what? It just hit me like, how in the world could he say that about me? He told me that it was something that he really wanted to do. And he said, I was afraid to do it while we were together because you were really mean. And I was like, really? If I was so mean, why were you doing so much stupid shit? Because it seemed like if I was such a tyrant, you wouldn't have done 1,000 things. And that's when I wrote that comment about 99% of the time when I raise my voice, it's not because I'm angry. It's because I'm shocked, appalled, or sometimes even disgusted. Because I'm like, I cannot believe, are you telling me that's not anger? That's me being like, are you serious right now? You know, like,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that he said that. And I'm like, because he was doing the most. I'm going to say this. I never threw a plate on the wall. That would seem like the person that was angry or, you know, but
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe because I point my finger and point out the wrong, I'm interpreted as the angry person. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Oh, we become mirrors, right?
What?
We're the
Yeah.
mirrors.
So I'm gonna have to go work on that one. Cause I was like, oh, should I call? Cause I said, I feel like I have to. And I was like, what am I going to talk to this person about? In their perspective, I'm a tyrant. I'm this whatever. They're always going to see it from their perspective. Not before I yelled at you, you did like you stepped on my toe like 1,000 times before I said anything. And I think that's kind of my thing too, is like, I'm not a person that's super vocal about being wronged. But then when I do say something, it's so emphatic that I'm the bad guy. It's really funny how people can see you that way when they don't realize like all the things that they've done to you. Cause I'm an act as
Yeah.
if person. That's how I am. I act as if I'm like, oh, I observe, and then I'm like, do you think it's right that you get to do? Yeah. So anyway, that's me, y'all. Y'all be getting to know each other. What about you, Terry? You're not completely vocal.
Peppers.
Says something to you. You're not. Are you?
No, but you know what? I guess I'm just at a different stage because I've done a lot of this years ago. So I have um, I've let go of a lot of stuff, and I've had to
No,
do it,
no, no. I mean,
over the
when
last
in the
25
past,
years.
like say when you were younger, or even now, I just really don't believe that you were that person. I think you've been a person like me who observed most of the time when someone said something to you or did something to you,
Oh,
you never
yeah.
really, you just, you,
No, I've always been the observer. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
that's how
And
I've
so
been.
I've always looked at it, and I've always seen, and I've always been that person that everybody talks to me, right? And they tell me things,
Yeah,
and
they
I'll
tell me
sit for
things.
2 hours and listen to and sit and listen to what they've said. But I've also taken it in, and then realize that I'm a Libra too, right? So you see both sides of the story, and it's like, yeah, and so I've seen two sides of the same story, and it's like, yeah, well, one person says this, another person says that, but from my standpoint, there's both of them are right or both of them are wrong or whatever. If there's a third story, always a third story. So I always see that third story. That's me.
And even in my mind right now, I'm just thinking of how he's gonna just remain with this list of things that he just thinks that I did to him. And it's just like mind blowing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's nothing I can say, nothing I can do, or,
Well, they want
there's
to take people don't want to take responsibility.
no,
They
because
don't want to
everything
take responsibility for how they feel. It's easier to blame someone else. That's it. You can't.
right. And so as
They
I'm a
have to do
person
their
who
own healing.
has a reasonable discussion with you, he interprets that as manipulation. So he's I remember one time when I was
Yeah.
discussing something that was in the best interest for my son, and I was like, I feel like this is in the best interest. And he was like, I can't listen to you because you're just too manipulative. No, I'm actually just being reasonable. And because you're convinced by my reasonable argument, you say I'm manipulative. It was just like, wow, I
Yeah.
can't win. There's gonna be those
Yeah.
people, y'all.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get
Always.
out of here. We're gonna go to the thing. Give us some likes and some thumbs up. Put some comments in there. Let us know how you felt about it. Terry, I mean, I just want to say this too. You had a cool experience where you went to a conference the other day, a retreat type situation, and someone knew who you were. Okay, because based on the algorithm, only 13 people watch the show. So it's like, how do I go to a conference or someplace and someone's like, yeah, I saw you. How are people seeing us when, like right now, it says 4 people are watching, and then 2 weeks later, it's still gonna, the most it'll get to is like 23, 26, and they're gonna continue to tell us that nobody's watching us, but yet. So it's really interesting. Love the YouTube algorithm and, whatever.
Like, oh, okay, that's nice.
Yeah. So give us some thumbs up and give us some comments. Let us know what you liked or didn't like. Appreciate you. And so we're going to break out.
And we will be I'll do some readings.
You're going to go out to Women of the Stars right now. Holla!
And we'll go. Yeah.
Play the outro.
We'll see you later. Have a great week.